effect. Had to be done. It's Premier League season day. It's been, what, a month-ish? Yeah, about a month since the game that must not be mentioned ever again. And football season officially back. Quick one today, just because I wanted to. Obviously, I've got a mark at the start of the season. I can't just be like, oh yeah, there's some games on last week. So obviously, got the little games out of the way. Community Shield, bit of banter. Super Cup, depends on who you ask. See the banter. If you don't win it, or if you win it, it's the biggest competition ever, isn't it, boys? So listen, a couple games out of the way. Nothing really you can't really tell much. Pre-season's obviously just pre-season. So the season's obviously kind of been running back to back for a little while since the shutdown. It's been football through most of summer 2020. We had like a couple weeks off, and then a full season of 2 games a week for some teams. I think both the Manchester clubs played every single week, twice a week almost, for most of it. So, and then you've had the Euros running all the way till about a month ago. So some of these boys are going to be knackered. I guess namely the England players. Maguire has been played. Maguire, Bruno, both United players, as it so happens. They've both ended up playing pretty much non-stop. Bruno's pretty played every single game since he came. So listen, we're going to do a quick little rundown. Not of everybody, just some key bits. You're going to go top 4, which is the goal, and then relegation. So starting with relegation, there's about 7 teams that I've looked at that could get relegated. Obviously, who knows, Villa or Arsenal, we can only hope, end up falling that way. But I think some of the teams I'll give you the 3 teams that I think are going to escape, but it's going to be close with the teams that the teams that aren't going down. So I'm going with Palace, just because they're keeping Zaha. I mean, they got rid of Hodgson, but they're keeping Zaha for now. If he stays, I think they'll stay up. They've got enough decent players, and they've been doing it for long enough where they're not going to be overawed by the whole everything coming back, crowds coming back. It's going to be a key one, because obviously the last year and a half there's been no crowds pretty much for most of the games. So everyone's kind of had a free ride. So when it gets bad without crowds, it can't snowball. You're kind of out there by yourself and it's quiet and it's not. But when it gets bad with crowds, the effect will get compounded. So if you're playing badly, or even if you have like a slightly off game. So some teams that might have had sort of a bad game once, and then they bounce back the next day because they haven't had the crowds booing them, like that happens a lot in Newcastle. If that happens this time with crowds, the momentum's gonna swing a lot quicker than it has done last year and the last half of the year before. So Burnley and Palace and Brentford. Now I'm saying Brentford, that's more of a heart thing than an actual facts thing, because they went up with they won the playoffs. So it means they weren't one of the best teams last year, even though they came third. So they didn't run away with it. They didn't automatically go up. They didn't win the league. They got through the playoffs, which means they're obviously gritty, and they've got Ivan Toney and a couple other decent players. But that's more of a heart thing. So they could well come bottom. Sorry, Gabe. They could well come bottom. First time in the Premier League in I don't know how long, if not ever. They're not used to going up and down as opposed to some of the other teams. I mean, I'm kind of arguing to put them back in, but I'm going to say they stay up. That's more of what I want to happen. It's by no means a prediction. So I'm going to say those 3 are going to avoid relegation, but they're going to be in a battle with the other 3 that are obviously going down. Brighton, they've lost Ben White, who in my opinion wasn't even their best defender. So they're down 1 player. They're going to keep Basoma, I think. So if they keep Basoma, and they just don't, it's not going to happen. I think they will go down. I don't think they don't score enough goals to stay up. They do keep clean sheets, and they are good defensively, but they're not going to score enough goals. Same with the other 2, Norwich and Watford. Watford have got Josh King now, and they have got Troy Deeney, who's been there and done it. They've brought in some players, and they were decent. They did go up automatically last year, so we'll see. I'm not hopeful. Watford are always one of those teams that can just implode, and Norwich have been there before. They've lost Wendia, but they've got Cantwell, Pookie, who's been there before. again, it's just not looking good compared to the other teams. Like I think Burnley are just too solid. I just really think they're just too solid, and Palace have got some goal scorers in their team, namely Zaha if they keep him. Brentford, I mean, they could Brentford and Norwich could easily swap because they've got a couple of decent players, and they got the team were in the Premier League 2 years ago. I think that might be the one. I think that'll be 16th and 17th. No, 17th and 18th. I think Brentford and Norwich are going to be 17th and 18th. I think Brighton and Watford are going to not have enough. And I think everyone else is just going to just about survive. So that's the bottom half. Kind of amateur breakdown of why things could happen. We could well be surprised. It could be someone like Southampton, or Southampton might just not show up this year. That's entirely possible. Leeds might have a kind of a relapse, and then everyone else should be enough. Villa got far too many good players to be anywhere near the bottom half. So, or the bottom of the table anyway. Top four is pretty obvious. City, United, Chelsea, Liverpool. Liverpool will definitely be a lot stronger. I think Van Dijk, as much as I was kind of slandering Liverpool last year for being rubbish without just the one player, I think that one player probably will have a big impact because the makeup of their team, he's kind of apart from Henderson, he's kind of the only like big leader, big time player, really. Like all the other they're all kind of like not sidemen, but they're sort of they'll do it when it's good, but when it's not too good, they're not really. There's no one that's going to drag them through. I think Van Dijk will drag them through, and they'll get top four. I mean, just because of the teams that are going to be outside, you've got Leicester, Spurs, maybe Arsenal, maybe Villa, Leeds. I mean, these boys aren't going to like really. I mean, they could. West Ham. They're not going to like challenge, but if Liverpool aren't there, like they weren't for 3/4 of last season, there's a chance they'll get nicked for that top four spot. I think the actual title race will be. I mean, it should on paper, like given how United have spent, given how Chelsea have spent over 2 years, and given how City have spent. City have got to be the favourites. They're the best team in Europe for sure. When they get it right, and Pep is probably going to want to get it right this year again. I mean, they are defending champions, so when they've won it, there's a chance that they'll have a bit of kind of complacency, which is entirely possible. You chuck Grealish into that team, and they've lost Aguero. They've not really got a new striker in there yet, until Harry Kane shows up probably. And they've got Sterling, who's kind of disgruntled out there on the wing. Their team is always balanced on a knife edge for me. Like their team is always just one or two games, or one or two bad results, or one or two bad personalities away from disaster. Like they're they're the best for me. They're the best team in Europe. But when it goes wrong, there's no team spirit to get them through. You've got Pep, who's a master tactician, master man manager at times. It's one of those where they've not got great team spirit or good team camaraderie, or long term. All the long term players are kind of like scattered around now. There's no Company and Silva and all those kind of boys. So when it goes wrong, they're liable just to tip over. There's no sort of group of lads. They're like solid. So they should get it. But if they start slowly, which they have done already, they've already lost to Leicester last week. They've got Grealish in there, who's going to have to bed in. Like I said, I'm not sure. You've got Sterling and Grealish out on the left. So Sterling's going to be sitting there like, what have I got to do to get back in the team? Phil Foden, I'm going to mention later on. It's now his season. He's got to be the guy, surely. And you've got Mahrez. Ferran Torres is kind of in and out of the team. They've not got a striker yet. They've got Jesus there, but he's obviously not their guy. De Bruyne will take time to get back from injury. Defensively, they're going to be solid, so they'll be fine. But I do expect them, depending on how Man U play, depending on how they play, depending on how Sancho knows not bed in, and if Varane shows up in form, and all the guys who have been playing are going to be fit, it could be. I mean, it should on paper, like taking your heart out of it. If you look at the players, it's a title race between the Manchester clubs and Chelsea. And whether Liverpool can get back, Liverpool on paper as good as they were the year before. They're better, debatably. They've got Jota in there for sure. He's had a year at Liverpool now. They've got Konate at the back with Van Dijk. Like it should be copy paste 2 years ago to now. It should be that. Like there's no actual, apart from the fact they've been in bad form for a year. And Mane, Salah, Firmino, or Jota are very temperamental as of last year. Anyway, Salah will be there. He's like, listen, I'm gonna score goals. I don't care about you lot. Mane sort of had a year of being rubbish. Firmino is rubbish. Jota should be playing. He's gonna want to be playing a lot more. And have they replaced Wijnaldum? Thiago sort of he's been disrespected for a year, a strong year. World team of the year the year before, and then suddenly Spain don't want to play him, Liverpool don't want to play him, and he's getting disrespect from left, right, and centre. So Liverpool are going to be an enigma. Chelsea will see now how good they really are if they can start the season strong, be favourites for competitions and kick up. So last year they kind of caught people by surprise because they were rubbish for half the year, and then they kind of galvanised after Tuchel and they got some players in. Now they got Romelu Lukaku, who, again, I'll mention him later on. On paper, great, fantastic, like goal scorer, flat track bully, but goal scorer. So he'll score against the crap teams. He won't score against the big teams. The big defender, he's going to have some problems. Well, he will get a lot of balls to feet because the kind of players he's playing with, Mount, Havertz, they want to find strikers running in behind. So, and he does do that. One-on-one, he's a problem. But big game performances. How's he gonna be mentally thinking? Because he got sacked off by Chelsea. United got him. Got sacked off by United. Went to Inter, balled out, won the league. Had a great season last year. Was the best player in Italy, as we all knew. Now he's been bought back for 100 million. Prime of his career. Let's see, boy. Let's see. Because I'm a fan. I've always quite liked him. Contrary to popular belief, I've always quite liked him. Like, it's just frustrating to watch and frustrating to have on your team sometimes. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm not gonna make an actual prediction who's gonna win the league. For me, I like City. I also on paper like United, but I'm kind of not very unbiased. But I'm sure most people would have City down there. They'd have Chelsea and United somewhere in the top, or certainly the top three, you'd hope. And how good are Liverpool going to be? Liverpool could well be, like I said, copy and paste from 2 years ago. So they'll be the top four. Leicester, honourable mention. They're not going to win the league, but if they keep consistent, and some of these guys, Chelsea, United, Liverpool, they're liable to sort of have a bit of a wobble. And so are City, to be fair. But TBC. I'm going to end, like I've referenced to a couple of times, with players to watch. Some players that I'm interested in seeing. I mentioned some of them already. I'm interested in seeing / have something they've got to go this year. They can't, there's no hiding for these 6 players, in my opinion. In no particular order, I've mentioned 2 of them already. Romelu Lukaku has got to hit the ground. There is no betting in. First of all, he played in the Premier League for long enough. He scored over 100 goals in the Premier League. It's hit the ground running. Goals from the off. He's got to score 20 goals this season. Unfortunately for him, there is no sort of give him a season. First of all, you played in Chelsea before, so you know the team, you know the structure, you know the training ground, you know the pitch, blah blah blah. You know the establishment. For him, he's under a lot of pressure. Unfortunately for him, because he can't come in and score 12 goals this year and just have an average season, because they had that from all the other strikers, all the other dross strikers they've had so far. So he's got to score 20 and he's got to be a star from the get-go, especially given the team he's playing in. I think he's got to hit the ground running. Sancho, similar to be fair, but given he's been playing in Germany for how many years, I'll give him a season, but he's got to be pretty good from the off as well. He doesn't have to be a superstar from the off, but he's got to be pretty damn good. He's not. If we're comparing to Lukaku, there'd definitely be Sancho be tucked in there behind. So I'm not expecting. I mean, he does balance the goals and assists, more assists than goals, and especially in that team, coming off of that problem right for Man U, he should be playing pretty much every game. There's no, he'd be splitting it with Greenwood maybe, depending on who we play. There'd be Greenwood, Cavani. They'll all sort of rotate on that right to centre forward position. So he's got to kind of kick on from there. Another boy I mentioned earlier, Phil Foden, who's kind of dropped off the radar as quickly as his hair has gone back to black. He kind of came in. He didn't play a lot. He played enough last season, but he wasn't in there every single game. Golden boy, everyone's raving about him, best player in the world. Came to the Euros, dyed his hair blonde. It's all about you. Played the first game, never saw him again. So, I mean, granted there was some injuries in there, but he's won. The hiding places are now kind of gone for him now. He's sort of got to be absolute star from the word go now. He's got to, hopefully Pep plays him, because that's the problem. One problem he has got is he's playing for Pep Guardiola, who is liable just to sit his entire first team for no apparent reason, even in big games, especially on the Champions League final last year. So we will see how he kicks on. This should be his season. This is now superstar season. There is no, he'll have a good season, score maybe 9 goals and a couple of assists. He needs to be best player on the team, really. He needs to be aiming for that, because that's his kind of billing, and especially given how much Pep's talking about him. So it's not like he's not out of favour with the manager. He's got to go. So Phil Foden, it's your time, son. Virgil van Dijk, different to the first 3 I've mentioned. Van Dijk, I'm more interested to see what he's going to be like. I would expect him to be as he was before. He's had a year out. He's had one entire calendar year, pretty much. I think he got injured in September or October, maybe. He's had almost an entire calendar year to recover from an ACL. Didn't go to the Euros, which is a good move. He's had rehab. He's been focused on rehab for one entire year, so he should be back to old Virgil van Dijk, best centre back in the world, bar none. So I'm more interested. There's no expectation really. When you come back for an ACL, everyone's kind of different. But for me, I'm very excited to see what he's going to be like. So if he's good, we've got a problem, because Liverpool are going to be very good. They won't concede as many stupid goals. He'll kind of galvanise the team. He'll push them forward a lot better than what was going on last year with no centre backs, to be fair. So interested to see what he's going to be like. Final 2, Emile Smith-Rowe, Arsenal number 10. He's 21, he's still getting there, but a big show of intent, rejecting all those bids for him in the summer. Now, he's number 10 for Arsenal. Arsenal, granted, aren't as good as they were. It'll be kind of another rebuild. Well, on paper, it should be a rebuilding season. Anywhere higher than they were last year. So if they get Europa League 5th, if they get 5th, great season. Book it. If they get 5th, it's a great season for them. They get 5th and a little cup run somewhere. I mean, if they get 5th in the FA Cup, I mean, get a parade down London, to be fair, because that means they've really established themselves as next. After the obvious top 4, if they can establish themselves as 5th above Leicester and Tottenham, they've done well. So, and he should be instrumental in doing it. He's had a year kind of bedding in. They kind of introduced him last year, given a fat contract, given him a number 10, reject all the bids for him. They said, "Now you're our guy." Similar to what we did with Rashford. Send him in there and say, "Let him go and play." Again, the pressure's not on him. I mean, they've given him number 10 and said, "You're the guy," but he is young. He's had kind of half a season to a season. Give him another couple, and he'll be fine. Final, Ivan Toney. Now, everyone's talking about him, obviously, because he scored 31 goals last year. 25, he's played in the Premier League before. He has been in the Premier League before with Newcastle. Didn't have a good time. He's obviously been scoring in the lower leagues. A lot of penalties. So, we'll see. I mean, there's been a lot of fanfare about a lot of strikers that come up from the Championship. Most of them don't succeed. Player of his type, he's set up to do well, to be fair. I mean, there's a lot of players like him in the Premier League. So once he learns, I mean, I can't imagine he'll hit the ground running, especially with Brentford, who are going to be under the cosh a lot this season. But if he can score the majority of their goals, he should get over. I mean, he can get 15. He can get 15 in the Prem, 20 all comps maybe, and we'll see. I mean, he could be there. He could be that guy. It depends how Brentford do, to be honest. But I would expect him to score most of their goals and all of their penalties, obviously. So he can get 9 penalties this year. He can get 10. Brentford stay up. It's a good season for him. And then he'll have to kick on and obviously then look at, see what else he can do outside of Brentford. If he has a really good season, he'll leave Brentford for sure. This will be his season. He has to prove himself as a Premier League player and then jump on. A bit like Patrick Bamford. So my honourable mention, going back to Arsenal again, Nicolas Pepe. Now, it's third season for him now. 70 million. He's the only 70 million player that I don't hear about his fee anymore. It's now his time. He's in his prime, 26. Got 10 goals last year in the Premier League. This is absolutely his time. Hopefully, for being fair, the spotlight is on him, and hopefully he plays well. I don't want him to flop, but it's definitely your time, Sam. You've got to do something now. 3 seasons, 70 million. It's absolutely his time. So he's definitely under the cosh for me because of A, because of the price tag, B, because he's had 3 seasons now. He should be playing most games out there with Smith. I don't know how Arsenal play, but they could play any front four they like. But if they get the right front four, him and Smith Rowe, maybe Martinelli or Aubameyang, Lacazette up top, or Aubameyang up top, however they want to play, they're set up to do better than they were last year. So he and Smith Rowe and him should definitely do well. So that is what I think. Premier League only. We're not going to talk Champions League or Europa or the Conference League for now, but they'll pop up as the season goes on. I'm very excited, mainly for my own team, obviously, because of Varane and Sancho, who are extremely exciting players. Defensively, we're already deep. We're already pretty good defensively, and we're already good going forward. We need a couple extra players. Keep Pogba, Varane, Sancho, Rashford, Greenwood, Cavani, Bruno. We'll see. But yeah, I will see you lot next week. We'll have a little roundup of the first week's action. And I'm going to I'm going to pick some bits out this year. I'm not going to just go every week reporting, Man U beat thingy 1-0. It's going to be the most important stuff, or some of the things I found interesting, hopefully you found interesting. So, see you then.